So here we are working on our 1968 Mercedes-Benz 230. Every year with this ethanol gas, it really messes up the carburetor, so I have to end up taking the top half of the carburetor off. You know, the float usually is sticking, and so I usually got to take it apart and clean it up. That's what I'm doing right now. I already got one piece of the top half off, and I'm going to work on taking the second half off to get to the float to take a look at it. So this has dual Zenith carburetors, and really a pain if they're not running properly. So here we are, we got the middle half of the carburetor off. We're trying to gain access to the float that's right there on the bottom. Going to make sure that's operating correctly. So I'm going to have a look at that right now. I forgot about that little piece right there. I replaced that last year. I'm going to take it out and make sure it's working correctly. And again, have a look at this float here. Make sure it's, see, it's kind of sticking now. So it's causing the carburetor to flood. It feels like it's really sticking. But I'm going to take it apart off now, clean it up, and see how it looks. Okay, here's the couple parts I was trying to get to. Here's the float. I'm going to check that out, maybe lubricate a little bit on the back side here where that pin is. And this thing here, I don't know what it's called, but I bought a new one last year, and I guess it goes against the float and allows and restricts fuel or adds fuel to the carburetor. I'm going to see if that's working correctly. It should be, because it was brand new. I bought one last year. So let's see what happens when we clean it up and lubricate a little bit. We cleaned up the float bowl as good as we can to get a lot of debris out of there. It wasn't too bad, but it definitely smelled like bad gas, and it's not even that old really. I mean, gas is probably, you know, 6, 7, 8 months old, but this thing does not like old gas with ethanol in it. Okay, put the float back together, and this little needle thing here, got it back together, clean it up. I usually use some seafoam spray, really helps lubricate the you know, moving parts, such as that little needle right there, and then there's a little needle right here too, a rod actually that connects the float. I'm going to lubricate that a little bit too and see how it works. Okay, got it back together. Just got to tighten up a few of the screws on top. Going to do that, and then take a look at the back one and clean that up too. Okay, here we are working on the second back carburetor. It's actually a couple sections. You could take apart the top, and then you get to the middle section. We're after the middle section, so basically you just have to remove these screws here around the outside perimeter, including this one. You can loosen this one, but all the way around. And then there's one small one in the middle you got to do. And then when you do that, make sure they're just loose. You know, pull them up, make sure they're loose, and then you can, you know, pull the top half off, and it'll come straight off. And then we'll get to the middle section, and that has 3 screws. So we got the top half off, and basically to get to the middle section, to get to that float, you basically have 3 screws. You got one here, and one here. And after you get those loose, you should be able to, you know, pull this up and flip this over. Then we can clean it up and take a look. You see there's like varnish in there. So again, this thing does not like old gas. I mean, no car does really. So we're going to take that off, clean it up, and probably drain the tank after this, just get all that old gas out. Basically, here's that middle section I was talking about. You can see all the varnish in there, and then here as well, you know, you can see it's just gross. So we're going to clean it up, make sure it's working correctly, and then drain the gas and put it back together. It's a little bit more freer than the front one, so maybe we got to look at it and do floats next year. But it seems to be a little bit more free, really free than the other one. Okay, here's the second carburetor back together. Only thing that's left to do is tighten up those screws around the outside. Took me about 20 minutes to take it apart, and then you know, put it back together right now. And then after that, like I said, we're going to drain the gas out of the tank and see how it goes from there. Okay, so here we are. Drain the gas, put 5 gallons of fresh mid-grade stuff in, and you know, got the carburetors all cleaned up, and gonna go ahead and give it a test try, see how it's running, see if it starts. Got a little loose battery connection here, but I'm gonna get a new one, but that's fine. At least we can start it, see what happens. It was hard to start because there was no gas in it at all. Wait a little bit, get some gas to the top. Into the fuel filter. See how it looks. Oh good, at least got fuel to the top now.